Welcome back to season 3 of Snubs and Dubs, where we're talking about the Snubs and Dubs of the 74th Academy Award for Best Picture. I'm your host, Kyle Tobiasen, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jason Miller. Jason, welcome to post Lord of the Rings season 3.
Well, this is the shift has happened. We're in a new realm now.
Yeah. How you doing?
Well, I'm going to answer that with a story.
Okay.
So the other day, I sold my old car, which, to put it in a good Christian sense, was a piece of shit. Fucking just a pile of trash. I've seen a collection of rocks that are probably better for that. But as a testament to how bizarre the secondhand market is right now, I got $1,800 for it. So I'm pretty happy with that because it sucked. The panel over the gas cap was broken. It did have the airbag light on, and I don't know what the cause was. I had a mechanic look at it once, and he also didn't know what was up with that. So, like, this was garbage. But I finally sold it. Yeah. And I took my license plate off of it because, you know, like, sold the car. Yeah. I had a different one from my other car. And I learned that you can go back and you can cancel your vehicle registration and get like a prorated refund for the cost of registering the car. Yeah. So I thought, well, I might as well. I did quick math. I only probably get like $20 back. And there's no better way to get rid of the old license plate anyway. Yeah. So I might as well. Yeah. So today on the way here, I went a little bit on my way to go stop by the registry that's open until 7.
Nice.
Stop in there. There's a $9 fee for doing this. It's like, crap. Okay, whatever. Still getting like $10 back. You know, I'm not wanted to leave money on the table, so whatever. So I fill out the form, give the guy my license plate. He looks me in the eyes. He sees me as a man in front of him. He looks into my soul. He understands that I have feelings. I am a complicated person with a backstory, with loved ones. Right. He says, okay, sir, so we'll be mailing you a refund in a couple weeks here. You'll get $9.50 back. I got 50 cents back because I had to pay $9 and I had to drive there. I probably lost money on this exchange. I should have just burnt it. I should have just chucked it into the ravine. It would have been worth more than 50 cents.
Jesus. That's so funny. And they're mailing it to you.
And they're mailing
like
it to me
mail.
In a couple weeks. I will get a check for $9.50, 9 of which I had to pay to get that check.
Oh my God. That's so funty. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you're planning on doing that, it's not worth it unless you're significantly out from the renewal date, I've learned.
Good. Did you watch anything last week?
Nothing in terms of movies, but I've been a man of the theater.
Oh.
My girlfriend and I went down to see Jesus Christ Superstar at the Jubilee.
Wow.
It was very fun.
Yeah.
A lot of people that also went to it had the same comment that the vocals weren't perfectly leveled. Like anytime the singers went loud, you just couldn't tell what they were saying, which was like a little distracting because most of it's pretty loud. So you couldn't hear a lot of what was going on, but like I've seen the movie. I know the story. I've seen the movie before. I could piece it together. And the music's great. The dancing's great. The stage presence is amazing. So I was overall impressed with that, but I do wish they had just mixed the singing better so that you could hear everything. I don't know.
Was this like an early show for them, like early in their run, or has it been kind of like established enough?
I don't know. I assume it's early because you kind of think like this would be a great Easter time show for, you know, it's about Jesus.
Yeah.
You'd think they'd relate it back to Easter, but whatever. November, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of getting to Christmas time, so whatever, close enough.
I have absolutely no relationship with this piece of material, Jesus Christ Superstar.
The movie that they made for the musical, worthwhile.
Okay.
It's fun. And like, it's not Book of Mormon, and it's not really poking fun at the story of Jesus, but it does make it fabulous.
Okay.
And that alone has some value.
Sure.
Yeah, and a good performances in it. I think it's a pretty fun musical.
Cool.
And then other than that, my girlfriend and I went to see another musical.
Okay.
It was a local production of Sweeney Todd.
Oh.
Which also kind of a weird time in November for that. Yeah. You'd think that would be more of like an October kind of number, but whatever. It was good. As far as like local shows go, there was pretty good singing talent and acting talent. They also did it with like a really stripped down cast, which was interesting. I think they only had like 7 people doing it.
Oh.
So a lot of people doing like multiple roles.
Yeah.
A lot of like, he threw us a sweater on and now he's a different person kind of thing. But like they sold it enough. I was pretty impressed by it. And some people that we knew were in it. So that was fun.
Yeah, that always makes it better.
Yeah. So good time. No movies though. That was it. How about you?
I saw one movie 2 times.
Oh, interesting.
It was Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Usually I would have talked about it last week, but due to my schedule, I wasn't able to see it on release night.
Oh my God.
Is something not in my usual schedule. Yeah, like I usually try to get them on on the Thursday night.
That's a Marvel red alarm.
Yeah.
The siren was going off. Kyle Tobiasen was not in the first available night to watch this movie. We've messed up.
Yeah, but I did see it, and I saw it twice that weekend. So I got a pretty good experience of the whole movie. I feel like I know it enough to kind of have my feelings about it solidified. And my feelings are, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like not the best. I would say it's probably one of the better Phase 4 movies, which is actually not saying that much because in the whole scheme of Phase 4, there hasn't been that many that have really stood out as being that great. But it is very competently made. Ryan Coogler is an amazing filmmaker, and all of the acting talent is really shining through. Obviously, it's dealing a lot with the grief of the death of in-universe T'Challa, but the actors are also probably dealing with the actual grief of their death of their friend, Chadwick Boseman. And so you get a lot of that coming through. And obviously in the movie itself, narratively, you are kind of also dealing with that passing as well. So there is a lot of good emotional core there. But it was a bit long. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes. Sometimes it doesn't feel that long, but it can sometimes feel like there's stuff that was in there that didn't need to be in there. Like a whole CIA plot that was like, we don't need to, I don't need to know these people. I want to see more of like the actual Wakandan characters. And they were kind of sidelined. Like M'Baku doesn't have like that much to do, strangely.
Weird.
Because like he's like one of the standouts from the first movie. And yet he's just kind of sidelined here. Namor is cool. I really liked him. Their villain actor was great. His motivation was pretty easy to understand. I just want to see more of him. The other problem was with this movie, you're taking into account real life circumstances.
Yeah. Like they probably didn't love that their main character like died in real life.
Totally. But then you also have to take in real life circumstances, at least from my personal opinion, that Letitia Wright isn't the best person either, because she's an anti-vaxxer.
Ooh.
And she was like causing, I as far as like I heard, like issues and delays in the production because she wasn't getting vaccinated.
God damn it.
And so as somebody who's supposed to get behind her as the lead character, because she has now stepped up from like supporting annoying, funny sister character to the lead character.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a few weeks in here. You don't care, but if you care about spoilers, I feel like you can maybe interpret this from the trailers, but she does end up becoming the Black Panther.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know anyone involved in that. And I picked up that sentence from the trailer.
So, yeah. Sorry if you didn't see it. It's been a few weeks by the time this has come out already. It's probably been a month by the time this has come out already. I feel like if you were one of those people that are going to rush out, you probably know. But anyways, and so you're supposed to get behind her as the new Black Panther as well. And I just found that there was a disconnect between me and I don't know if it was just Shuri and how she was written or if it was Letitia Wright, but I couldn't really get behind her. And so in a way, you're missing Chadwick Boseman because he was such a great actor and he was such a great presence in these movies, but also you're missing T'Challa in this movie as like an emotional core that I could actually like root and support for. And so it was just, it had its like really good moments, but it also had some moments that I was like, yeah, it's not the best, but yeah.
Mixed bag.
Yeah.
But as long as it's worth watching, that's still pulling out something considering the circumstances.
Totally. I just don't know if I would ever revisit it after the 2 times that I've had going through it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's Black Panther for you.
But that was it. But there's been 2 animes that I've been watching. Molly and I have been getting into. The first is Chainsaw Man, which mixed bag.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. Things on Reddit that creep onto like the front page or whatever.
Yeah.
So I've seen glimpses of it and I have no fucking idea what's going on,
It's
man. I got
so
no
odd.
clue what that's all about.
Yeah. Like it's such an anime concept with like devils and like a fighting force of people, like an organization, kind of like a CIA that's like dealing with killing demons and stuff. And this lead character who becomes sort of a half man, half demon, becoming like the Chainsaw Man.
The titular Chainsaw Man.
Yeah. And so you're supposed to have him as the lead character, and he's kind of around with this other group of like demon fighting people that also have their own relationships with demons and stuff. But his main motivation is he wants to touch boobs.
Oh, that's so annoyingly anime.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so weird because like he's such an odd character, and in a way like it's funny to start, But after a while, you're like, is that really like, is he just going to be that the whole series?
That's kind of flat.
I don't know. And so like, I don't know if maybe he's going to eventually have some sort of emotional arc where he realizes that this mission is more important than his mission to touch boobs.
Yeah.
But it's kind of odd. And I find the pacing so painful because there's times where it's really upbeat and it's really fucking flying with like great action. Like the animation for the action is amazing. And like some of the humor is really good, but then it'll just grind to a halt. And like, I get that they want to have these interpersonal moments, but it just becomes so draining to sit through because I don't really care about these characters in a sense, especially, I think his name's Denji and the Chainsaw Man, because he's so odd and annoying. Like I don't really, I'm not motivated to really sit and enjoy these interpersonal relationships. So I don't know. It's odd, but we're kind of sticking through it. So
I wonder if one day someone's going to create an anime that's not fueled by perverts. Like, will one day they make a show for people who aren't just sexual deviants? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, My Love Story, which I watched last year, is very sweet. It's about romance. And so it's kind of light that, but like it is not sexual. Like in that, so maybe there are some out there, I'm sure.
Hey, we did it.
We got there. But the other one that I've been watching, which I know has been a very popular one that we've just started to get through, is Spy X Family. Fuck, man, it's so good.
Yeah.
I'm so into it right now. Like we're only like maybe 5 episodes in. We've been only able to get like one per day for the last like 4 weeks. Or like even like one per week, really. Every episode, so high energy, so funny. Like the 3 characters that are like the main kind of core. Like, I'm not sure. Do you have any background of this anime at all?
No, I've never heard of this one.
Essentially, it's about a spy who, as part of a mission to help his country, has to get a child into a prestigious school so that he can investigate it further for the greater good, basically. And so he adopts a child who happens to be a telepath. Oh. And then they have like their relationship and the child's so sweet. And the school has this restriction where like they have to have an interview and it's very prestigious and the interview requires both parents to be present. And so they had to get a mother basically. And so the mother ends up being an assassin just by like happenstance. So they're all like hiding things from each other, but they all have like special skills that like actually help each other. And you're kind of like, if they all just told each other what they were, they would be able to get through these situations so much easier, but they don't want to reveal things to each other. So it's just such a unique web of personalities and conflicts. And it's so fun.
That's fun. I like that idea.
Yeah. But that's been it. Yeah. Next time we'll talk about that will be when I finish it. So
yeah. But I'm excited to hear the conclusion.
Yeah. But other than that, we watched a 2001 movie. Of course, season 3 has been covering the films from the year 2001. And for episode 16, we are talking about Black Hawk Down. Had you seen it before?
I have not seen it before, but I read the book.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Have you seen it before or read the book?
I have not read the book, but I have seen it before.
Between the two of us, we've consumed all of the media before watching it again.
And I actually didn't know there was a book until like doing my research for this. So that's good to know. But it was like 2 years ago that I watched it. It was like 2020. So I was keeping track of what I was watching at that point. And I knew it was within recent memory because I got a 4K disc of it. Think then, and I was like, oh, let's just check it out. So
I read the book a number of years ago. I don't remember how old I was, but it was like maybe junior high or something that I read it. So it was quite a while ago, but I do distinctly remember it because it is quite an impactful book.
Well, I'm glad that you've read the book because it's always a valuable resource, even though it's been probably a few years.
It's been a lot of years.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you're interested in Black Hawk Down or the book it was based on, I've included links to the physical media related to it in the show notes. If you buy through those links, it'll help out our show. Or if you have any other Amazon shopping to do, follow the general link to help out our show in the process. Reminder that this is going to be a spoiler-filled conversation. So if you haven't seen Black Hawk Down yet and you want to, go ahead and do so. I've also included time codes in the show notes so you can skip around to your heart's desire. But without further ado, let's get into it. Black Hawk Down is a 2001 war film directed by Ridley Scott. It's written by Ken Nolan based on the 1999 nonfiction book of the same name by journalist Mark Bowden about the U.S. military's 1993 raid in Mogadishu. Black Hawk Down stars Josh Hartnett as Staff Sergeant Matt Eversman, Ewan McGregor as Specialist John Grimesy Grimes, Tom Sizemore as Lieutenant Colonel Danny McKnight, Eric Bana as Sergeant First Class Norm Hoot Gibson, and it also stars William Fichtner, Ewan Bremmer, Sam Shepard, Jason Isaacs, Orlando Bloom, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, Ty Burrell, and Tom Hardy in his first ever feature film.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. It has a runtime of 144 minutes and it released on December 28th, 2001. Jason, what did you think of Black Hawk Down?
Now, I'm probably going to be comparing this to American Sniper a lot.
Yeah.
Because there's both the movie itself and the greater context in the world in which it exists. And if I look at just the movie itself, it's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
It's a thrilling, action movie.
Yeah.
It's sad and hard to watch in spots. I think they go a little overboard with the action sometimes. They maybe make it sound a little more unrealistic than it actually is. But I think overall, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It is pretty effective. I think my first experience watching this was a lot better than the second experience. And I think the second experience felt a lot longer. Obviously, this is over a 2-hour movie. And so sometimes it can feel quite long. And it does feel like it takes a little bit to get into the conflict sometimes. And the passage of time, obviously, this whole event was like over a day that they were like out there, and they were only expecting to be out there for like 30 minutes maybe. And so it's supposed to kind of like go over that time, but sometimes it felt longer and stretches that maybe didn't need to feel as long. And then sometimes time passed really quickly. And so you're thinking that there hasn't been that much conflict in that time. And I found, you'll learn later, but this was Academy Award winning for its editing. And I think this falls into the category of most editing.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
It is extremely frantic with its editing. And I find that sometimes it's distracting, but sometimes it's effective. Like they have this thing where if something traumatic happens, like if somebody gets blown to bits and their like limbs are falling off or they're like severely injured, it'll show you a glimpse of their injury and then just cut immediately back to the reaction of the person who's seeing it. Because I guess like that is the more important thing. They don't need to linger on the actual graphic injury, which the special effects were probably practical and they looked really good. For the injuries. And so it like really good in the sense that it looked awful. It looked accurate, which is the worst thing to see. Exactly. And so like the reaction of the person is more important. But then sometimes when the battles are happening, it is just like cut. There's people on one side shooting, people on the other side shooting, clips of just guns, clips of people running. It's wild and frantic. And I know why they did it because they wanted to put you into that experience. But sometimes I did wish I could just focus on one person.
Yeah. They also, with that frantic editing style, it's kind of hard to follow who's who, especially since military guys look the same. So you can't easily distinguish between them, especially when they're trying to keep track of the injured people. I could not keep straight who had been shot where and whatnot and who was supposed to be kept track of. Because a lot of injuries you don't care about. Like you see them get shot and they move on. Some of them, they linger. They had that one scene of trying to get the bullet out of the guy's leg because that was supposed to be more emotional scene. But then they cut later to a guy who had recovered, and I thought that was him. So I'm like, holy shit, he survived. But then they cut back to the morgue, and that's the actual guy, but they look the same. Like, oh, he didn't survive. Oh, never mind. That sucks.
Yeah, it's weird like that. But I do like that it's slowed down in moments like that with the surgery scene. Because that was a very effective scene, and I found that more impactful to me than them like just like the frantic firing, because that was actually kind of showing the graphic effects of a simple bullet through the leg. Like it was just because he was trying to help him get back. That bit was it's sad, but it's not. I'm not saying it's my favorite bit because it was like the most fun to watch, but in terms of like the actual narrative of the movie, that's probably my favorite bit.
Like it's very prescient. It leaves an impact on you, and that can be a good part of movies.
Let's get to the plot because I have other things to talk about. Jason's going to read straight through the plot. If you don't need the refresher, you can skip right to the discussion by following the time codes in the show notes, but here's Black Hawk Down.
To consolidate power and subdue the population in the south of Mogadishu, Somalia, warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid and his military seized Red Cross food shipments. Outside Mogadishu, Rangers and Delta Force capture Osman Ali Atto, a faction leader selling arms to Aidid's militia. The U.S. then plans a mission to capture 2 of Aidid's top advisors. The U.S. forces include experienced men as well as new recruits, including 18-year-old Private First Class Todd Blackburn and Specialist John Grimes, a desk clerk. Staff Sergeant Matthew Eversman receives his first command of Ranger Chalk 4 after his lieutenant has a seizure. Eversman responds to mocking remarks about Somalis from fellow soldiers by saying he respects the Somalis and has compassion for the terrible conditions of civil war for the Somali people, saying there are 2 things they can do: we can help, or we can sit back and watch a country destroy itself on CNN. The operation begins and Delta Force captures Aidid's advisors inside the target building, while the Rangers and helicopters escorting the ground extraction convoy take heavy fire. Blackburn is severely injured when he falls from one of the Black Hawk helicopters, so 3 Humvees led by Staff Sergeant Jeff Strucker are detached from the convoy to return Blackburn to the UN-held Mogadishu airport. During the ensuing battle, Grimes was separated from the rest of Everman's Chalk after surviving an RPG explosion. Sergeant Dominic Pila is shot and killed just as Strucker's column departs, and shortly thereafter, Black Hawk Super 6-1, piloted by Chief Warrant Officer Clifton Elvis Wolcott, is shot down by a rocket-propelled grenade. Wolcott and his co-pilot are killed. The 2 crew chiefs are wounded, and 2 Delta Force snipers on board escape in an MH-6 Little Bird helicopter, but Bush dies later from his wounds. The ground forces are rerouted to converge on the crash site. The Somali militia erects roadblocks, and Lieutenant Colonel Danny McKnight's Humvee column is unable to reach the crash area and sustains heavy casualties. Meanwhile, 2 Ranger Chalks, including Everman's unit, reach Super 6-1's crash site and set up a defensive perimeter to await evacuation with the 2 wounded men and the fallen pilots. In the interim, Super 6-4, piloted by Chief Warrant Officer Michael Durant, is also shot down by a rocket-propelled grenade and crashes several blocks away. With Captain Mike Steele's Rangers pinned down and sustaining heavy casualties, no ground forces can reach Super 6-4's crash site or reinforce the Rangers defending Super 6-1. 2 Delta Force snipers, Sergeant First Class Randy Shugart and Master Sergeant Gary Gordon, are inserted by helicopter to Super 6-4's crash site, where they find Durant still alive. The site is eventually overrun. Gordon and Shugart are killed, and Durant is captured by Adid's militia. McKnight's column relinquishes their attempt to reach 6-1's crash site and returns to base with their prisoners and the casualties. The men prepare to go back to extract the Rangers and the fallen pilots, and Major General Garrison sends Lieutenant Colonel Joe Cribbs to ask for reinforcements from the 10th Mountain Division, including Malaysian and Pakistani armored units from the UN coalition. As night falls, Adid's militia launches a sustained assault on the trapped Americans at Super 6-1's crash site. The militants are held off throughout the night by strafing runs and rocket attacks from AH-6J Little Bird helicopter gunships until the 10th Mountain Division's relief column is able to reach the American soldiers. The wounded and casualties are evacuated in the vehicles, but a few Rangers and Delta Force soldiers are forced to run on foot from the crash site to reach the safe zone at the stadium. After the end titles, we recount the immediate aftermath of the mission and the end of U.S. military operations in Somalia. Michael Durant is released after 11 days of captivity, after which President Bill Clinton withdrew all U.S. forces from Somalia. During the raid, 19 American soldiers and more than 1,000 Somalis died. The names of the 19 soldiers who died, including Delta Sergeants Gordon and Shugart, the first soldiers to receive the Medal of Honor posthumously since the Vietnam War, are listed by name. Mohammed Farah Aidid was killed in 1996, and General Garrison retired the following day. But that is Black Hawk Down. There's a lot of action going around. I probably mispronounced every military ranking because there's lieutenant, but sometimes lieutenant, but spelled lieutenant, and there's colonel, sometimes pronounced colonel, but spelled colonel. And that's the worst when you get a goddamn lieutenant colonel.
Yeah, I've never really understood military ranks. Nor have I really been interested to understand them, but meh.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, well.
Private's bad. That's the first one. That's all. Private's like the white belt.
Yeah.
And then from there, I don't really care to memorize the rest.
Yeah, one thing that was like kind of in my afterthoughts watching this movie a second time that I noticed more was that there's not really a central character.
No.
And I get that this is a real life event that happened, and a lot of these guys are real people being portrayed by these actors. And so in a way, you're trying to get as many of those people in as possible. But I kind of wish that there was more focus on maybe 1 or 2 individuals, because it seems like Josh Hartnett's character is going to be the lead.
Yeah, I was thinking like you could just focus on Everman's more because he actually has some development to him. Mm-hmm. You see him have to take over a lead for the first time in this terrible mission that goes so awry. Like that's a really cool storyline to mostly focus on.
But then he kind of disappears. Like as soon as the whole event starts happening, other sort of factions get a lot of the screen time.
Yeah.
And it's like they start like evenly sharing the screen time instead of like him being kind of the focus. And I get those bits are important to like the narrative of it, but in a way I just couldn't attach to any one particular character because there was so many that I was supposed to attach to. So.
Yeah. And honestly, there's a number of scenes that involve 2 guys who get separated from everyone else.
Yeah.
And in one scene, one guy like deafens the other guy by firing too close to his ear.
Yeah.
You probably could have cut all of that. It wasn't like particularly important to the storyline. Like you can have them get left behind and eventually they make their way back to the crew, but everything else they do is not particularly important.
Yeah.
And you could be using that time to better establish like a central character that you can follow closer.
Yeah, or even just trim the runtime because it is like a very long movie still and does feel quite long sometimes. But that being said, it is a very well made movie.
It's very well made.
And
it is funny how they have like the Oakley filter applied over everything.
Kind
like,
of, yeah.
Well, we're not in North America, so everything has a different shade to it.
Yeah. I mean, like the score is also good. I think Hans Zimmer is the composer, which I mean, guy pulls out bangers just like on a casual Wednesday. Yeah. It all comes together really well, which also makes you ask the question, like maybe why did this not get nominated for Best Picture? Which is obviously the whole point of this podcast. But like, this does seem like something, at least nowadays, when there's 10 nominations, that probably would maybe be considered.
Yeah.
Especially given the craft. And I mean, it's Ridley Scott. And I think it's an impactful story that was also somewhat recent at the time.
Yeah. It was actually like quite recent, I believe.
Yeah. Because the book came out in 99 and the event was 93 and this is 2001. So somewhat recent, like within 7 or 8 years, like that's still kind of fresh memory. What else do you feel about it?
I don't even know if I have all that many comments about like the movie itself, other than like very well technically made, just muddied at times.
Yeah.
But like I wanted to do some research to see the accuracy of it and the portrayal. And the main thing that I take issue with this movie is that goddamn opening credit scene where they're giving you in quotation facts about the scenario. Yeah. Because like as soon as you're watching that, it's a lot of like, okay, buddy, this is a very black and white America good, other people bad kind of scenario. This never gets into American Sniper levels of like ridiculously nationalistic to the states, but there are a number of things that are presented to you in a way to paint your portrayal of it. Like that scene where people were firing at the UN convoy. Yeah. That didn't happen.
Oh, okay.
Like there was never an assault on the food trucks that were being handed out by the UN. That was just kind of added. There was an attack on the UN soldiers. Like when it mentioned that there was something like 24 Pakistani soldiers killed.
Right.
Which even that sentence was so stupid. It was like on June 5th or whatever, 24 Pakistani soldiers are attacked. And then they targeted Americans. Those were fucking back-to-back sentences. I had to pause on that one and give like a heavy roll of the eyes. Like, God damn it, that's just so blatant. But they also, like, they didn't target Americans. There was just conflict between Adid and the UN because the UN wanted to remove him. And I'm not going to argue in support of Adid. He is a warlord, but it's not how it was portrayed. It's not a dude who's like, you know, who we're going to fuck up today? The UN while they give us food. It's more complicated than that. But of course, they're not going to put a complicated scenario into the movie. Yeah. Because it's rah America. We're coming in to instill democracy in these people, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing that sometimes I think military army movies like miss. Like clearly this movie is anti-war because it's showing how graphic and how pointless a lot of the scenario was. Like it was just like firing back and forth. So many people died and the warlord gets kind of a scene where he talks to a captive where he's basically like, I don't know why you guys are here. Like it's going to happen regardless if you're here or not. Like there's going to be fighting. And so it's trying to make the anti-war argument, but it also has that like pro-military aesthetic and like the pro-American aesthetic. I at least haven't really seen a movie that's found that balance really well.
Yeah, and I think it's probably tough to do. A lot of movies are willing to wrestle with like this conflict was probably not necessary ultimately, or maybe we should have just offered better humanitarian aid rather than just going in guns a-blazing.
Yeah.
But in this movie particularly, another thing that I have an issue with is how they present the combatants. Because like he's a warlord. Most of his army is children soldiers. It's not big, thick dudes who are like Terry Crews-esque in their stature. It's a bunch of starving children with no other outlook on life. Like these Americans aren't coming in to combat some evil army. It's desperate people with no economic hopes are trying to secure a living for themselves. And now the Americans are coming in, honestly creating war. Yeah. Because they don't really explain in the movie why one warlord could have the entirety of Mogadishu fighting for him. Yeah. Because that's what it looks like when they show thousands of Somali soldiers coming for these guys. But it's just these Americans are stepping into a part of the world that's desperate to survive and getting in their way and screwing that up for them. So of course there's going to be a reaction to that that's not really discussed as a greater part of the movie.
Yeah. Well, do you want to hear what other people thought about it?
I'd love to hear what other people thought about it.
Critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 77%.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Audiences, 88%.
That's kind of what I expected, honestly.
Yeah. IMDb, 7.7 and Metacritic, 72. So kind of mid to high 70s, which obviously those audience scores are pretty high. So yeah. I could see this easily being like a hoorah war military movie in a sense, like where people kind of get, I don't know, celebratory about it in a sense. But
it's like, it's a way, I saw one post a while ago that's like, American loves to make movies where they go invade a country and then 20 years later make a movie about how that made them sad. And this is exactly what that is. It's like these guys went there and like, yeah, it's a tragic thing that happened, but like, why are they in Somalia? Like, none of them are from there.
And then on a budget of $92 million, so pretty steep, it made $160 million at the worldwide box office, planting it at number 29 for the 2001 yearly box office.
Yeah, that's not a bad return.
No.
Yeah.
It was like a high budget, though.
Like the gross is smaller than I thought it would be. I kind of thought both the budget might not be that high, and also I was surprised it didn't make more. I thought this would be a 200 mil plus kind of movie.
Yeah, totally. I can agree with that. And also, I think that nowadays, a lot of the actors in this are quite well known. Like, we just talked about The Lord of the Rings with Orlando Bloom last episode, but this is also early Orlando Bloom. Like, I think he probably filmed this after Fellowship because Fellowship was filming in 99 and this probably had a quicker turnaround. Yeah. And so like he's a relatively unknown actor at this point. Tom Hardy is fresh. Like this is his first feature film. Nikolai fucking Coster whatever.
That guy.
Nikolai Coster-Waldau. He was in Game of Thrones, and so that was a big role for him. Obviously, Ewan McGregor is a huge actor. He was kind of getting more popular in the 90s anyway, so like, especially after Trainspotting. And Eric Bana, who I guess there's a fact that I have later, but this was his first American movie. Oh. Because he's Australian, so I think he had mostly been working in Australian movies or English movies. But this was his U.S. film debut.
Interesting.
So relatively, quote, unknown cast, yet it's all movie stars now.
With a bunch of bangers they found in there.
And even, I forget the actor's name, but the guy that has a seizure, he plays Mr. Fantastic in the original Fantastic Four movies.
Oh, interesting.
So that was kind of a funny thing to see, but weird cast. But it's almost like drafts, like in hockey. Yeah. Like you're getting them early before they're too expensive. Ridley Scott must be just like legendary at fantasy.
Yeah. I do want to say, the scene where the guy has a seizure is so weird. Yeah. That's the strangest paced scene I've ever. He's playing chess like, oh man, I gotta go watch this. He gets up and runs over, starts hysterically laughing at an unfunny thing, and then just has a seizure. They can just happen. Like, you know what? He doesn't need to laugh himself into that. That was a weird moment. That whole scene was like, oh shit, we forgot to film that quickly. We have 10 seconds to write and film this.
Yeah, that was a very odd scene. But anyways, the budget you would think maybe would be because of the actors, but I think probably at that point they were relatively cheap, like not asking for the salaries that they'd be asking for now. I think a lot of the budget probably went to locations, military equipment.
I think it's so many vehicles involved in that, and helicopters too. That's got to be pricey.
That has got to bump the budget. But I'm pretty sure the U.S. military will like give you stuff if you make them look good.
Really? You want to talk about big budget? Yeah. U.S. military's got one of those.
But more importantly, what did we think about Black Hawk Down?
You know, that's a great question. Kyle, you are going to start this off, as per usual, with your enjoyment factor.
I gave this a 3.5. I did really like sitting through it. It's really well acted, and the craft behind it is good. We'll get to that score later, but like it all kind of elevated my enjoyment. It does feel long, though, and I do struggle to kind of get behind any one particular character, and so I did dock it for that reason. So 3.5.
Yeah. I'm going to give this a 3 for very similar reasons. Yeah. I do also, having read the book is really good. Like I started rereading part of it after watching the movie, and the book drops you in immediately into the action and then kind of backstories out from there. And that was such a better way to do that. Like I was annoyed by how long it took to get there in the movie. But I'm going to 3 it, and that is probably going to be one of the lower scores that it'll get. So what's your craft?
This is a 4. I think it was very, very well crafted with a good score and great cinematography. I do think the editing sometimes is a bit distracting. Yeah. And so that is definitely a choice. And sometimes it was taking me out of it. But 4.
I agree.
Great.
What's your execution?
This is, again, a 3.5. I think it is, pretty well written. I do think it is overly long. And again, it struggles to find a central character in the screenplay. And I think that is because they tried to have too many characters.
Mm-hmm.
But the actors, with what they're given, are really great. And especially for being early in a lot of these guys' career is exceptional work.
Mm-hmm. I agree. 3.5. What's your rewatchability?
So having watched this twice, I'm pretty much done. I gave it a 2.5. I think that it is a fine movie to put on, but I don't think I would actively be encouraged to watch this again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, unless I'm like trying to test my a home theater or something, because it's got a substantial sound mix.
Yeah.
So that would be maybe it. Also, I don't know if this was something that you noticed, but like, at least on my 4K, it's very grainy.
Yeah, it's not great quality.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if that was just from the streaming or if that was the quality of the movie itself, but it was apparent. You could tell.
It's the movie itself, because I was, on the 4K, I think it's clearly shot on film, but the grain is very apparent. And so I don't know if it was just like a bad transfer or like what they were shooting on, like what stock they were using, but like, or maybe it's digital and it's just digital noise, but I just found it was very muddy sometimes.
Yeah.
And so like in that way, it's kind of like odd. But anyways, rewatchability, 2.5.
I lied about 3 being the lower score that I'll give this. I'm going to give rewatchability a 2.
Oh, yeah.
I think if I want to revisit this story, which I probably don't, I've had my share.
Yeah.
I would go back to the book first because it's very well written and a bit more like encompassing of the entire story with a better direction to it. But the movies, it's an adaptation.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a 2 for rewatchability. I don't imagine I'll be back to this anytime soon.
Yeah.
Kyle, that is going to bring you to a 13.5 out of 20 for a 68%. And I am at 12.5 out of 20 for a 63%. That's going to scooch us right down to rankings. Kyle, right now you are Lord of the Rings, Donnie Darko, Memento, Royal Tenenbaums, Shrek, Training Day, Ocean's 11, Harry Potter, Sexy Beast, The Others, Spy Kids, Monsters Ball, Gosford Park, In the Bedroom, and Ghost World. Where is Black Hawk going down?
It is going to be my new number 11 over Spy Kids, under The Others.
Very well placed.
Thanks.
This is also going to be my new number 11, but for me, that is going to be squished between Ocean's 11 above and In the Bedroom below.
So you're just delaying your Ocean's 11 being
I
number
know,
11.
I pushed it. I wanted this to be number 10, but it's not number 10. It's really not. But that is going to bring my ranking to Lord of the Rings, Donnie Darko, Royal Tenenbaums, Shrek, Training Day, Memento, The Others, Sexy Beast, Harry Potter, Ocean's 11, Black Hawk Down, In the Bedroom, Spy Kids, Gosford Park, Ghost World, and Monsters Ball.
Black Hawk Down in the Bedroom sounded like a sentence for a second.
Black Hawk Down in the Bedroom. Oh no, Spy Kids.
Oh, yikes. Okay. Well, do you want to hear what people thought on Letterboxd?
I'd love to.
All right. This has a score of 3.6 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so pretty average.
Yeah.
I got a 4-star by Jizz Monkey.
Okay.
From a production perspective, this film is incredible. Every shot, the color, the casting, the cigar smoking, everything is top notch. As for the event itself, if the Somali combatants had just paused and aimed a little, probably would have been over in like half an hour.
I remember the book going into that and saying that, like, first of all, they're not getting that close because, like, the American guns can actually aim, and AK-47s just apparently just suck.
Yeah,
like they're just a random bullet going anywhere. Which, like, they probably were aiming. They just like, those are fucking stormtrooper guns. Yeah. That's the best they can do. It's just quantity.
Yeah. A 2-star by Travis. Just to double check, where is the bad one, right? Lastly, 1.5 stars watched by Clobby Clobsters. Blade Runner. What if androids were more human than humanity? The Martian. How do we carry on in a hopeless situation? Alien. What if capitalism meant you had to die in space? Gladiator. What if a hero gave the power back to the people? Black Hawk Down. War is bad, actually.
It takes a brave movie to make such a bold statement as war bad.
War bad. All right, well, Academy Award details. As I mentioned, it did win for Best Film Editing, but it was nominated for 4 awards.
Ooh.
What else do you think it might have been nominated for?
Well, I mean, Hans Zimmerman did the score. Hans Zimmer?
Hans Zimmer, yes.
Hans Zimmer,
We could call it Hans Zimmer Man.
Hans
It's
Zimmer,
Hans
the
Zimmer
man.
the man, yes.
So did it get nominated for score?
It did not get nominated for score.
Fuck, how could they do that to
Yeah.
Hans? It's a crime. I can't imagine it was acting. No one really
No.
came across as that incredible of acting.
I'll take you off the hook.
Yeah.
It was Best Sound, Best Director, and Best Cinematography, in addition to Best Film Editing.
Yeah,
It
sure.
won 2
Mm-hmm.
Best Film Editing and Best Sound. So,
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
makes sense.
Yeah,
I think
get
in
it.
both cases it was the most editing and the most sound.
It had a lot of sound.
Yeah, so I don't disagree there with the Best Director or Best Cinematography not
Mhm.
winning. Interesting that this got nominated for Best Director, when not nominated for Best Picture.
This
Usually
had
that
to
kind
have
of
been
goes hand
like
in hand.
the 6th movie back for
Probably,
Best Picture.
yeah. Other notable awards, it was BAFTA nominated for cinematography, editing, and sound, no wins, and it was WGA nominated for its adapted screenplay, which is also a nomination that it missed this year, being an adapted screenplay. So I don't know.
That's strange because there's been a lot of weak adapted screenplays
Yeah.
going around.
I wouldn't necessarily think this as like an Academy Award nominated screenplay,
Mhm.
but in the year, maybe.
This is
Yeah.
of the years it could do it. It would be 2001.
Lastly, Josh Hartnett was nominated for a Teen Choice Award for Best Actor in a Drama.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
I think just Josh Hartnett being kind of a teen. Is he like famous for being a teen icon or something? I don't know.
I don't know.
Teenagers love him. Fucking I don't
Sure.
know.
Why not? Let's just say that. Let's
Yeah.
confidently say he is a teen icon.
All right, interesting facts. Some of the radio chatter in the film was taken directly from actual radio transmissions made during the battle.
Hmm.
The Black Hawk going down, the titular Black Hawk going down, spiraling as it crash lands, was achieved largely through real skillful flying of the helicopter with only some CGI augmentation.
Oh,
The minute it hits the ground, however, the rotors are completely computer generated.
that makes sense. I figured that they would be editing the part where it got shot.
Yeah.
That's probably CGI.
Probably.
Unless they're like, no, fuck it. We got the budget. Shoot that fucker down.
But yeah, it's cool that they actually did some like real flying with that.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
they
very
captured that
impressive
on
flying.
camera.
I don't know anything about helicopters, but I was unaware they could move like that. So
Yeah.
that's very impressive flying.
Nelson, played by Ewan Bremer, says to Twombly, "Just don't fire that thing so close to my head, I can barely hear as it is." Bremer actually partially lost his hearing because of all the gunfire. He eventually recovered it. So, yeah.
Oh, good for him. I kind of was wondering if that was a temporary or permanent thing.
Yeah. I also mentioned that this was Eric Bana's US film debut. He found the experience to be ultra realistic and said that he frequently forgot that they were only making a film. So.
What did he think they were doing?
War.
What do you mean?
He thought they were at war.
Where did they film this? Do we need to look into this? Did he shoot people?
Well, actually, I do think they shot in a location. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't think it was on U.S. soil. But anyways, I'll get to that because I got another fact about that while you look that up.
Yeah.
The film features soldiers wearing helmets with their last name on them. Although this was an inaccuracy, Ridley Scott felt it was necessary to have the helmets to help the audience distinguish between the characters because they all look the same once the uniforms are on.
They absolutely did need
Yes.
that. And I was good while they were wearing helmets. But as soon as someone got injured, they took the helmet off. I had no idea who they were.
Yeah. All right. Lastly, the set was constantly bothered by stray dogs running into shots. Ridley Scott kept them in because he liked the authentic feel of their presence. 8 dogs were adopted by various members of the production and were eventually brought back to the U.S. with their new owners. So,
Aw, that's
yes.
so sweet.
must not have been shot in the U.S. Did you find that?
I did. It was shot in Morocco.
Oh, wow.
Which makes sense. I didn't feel like they'd be going to Somalia.
Yeah.
While
definitely.
it is on the ups from when the actual movie event happened,
Yeah.
not that much.
Yeah. That was a good fact I read it before I rewatched. And so, yeah, I did pay more attention to the dogs that were actually just like getting in the way.
Oh,
And so it wasn't just like an actual dog that they brought on set trained to do certain things. They were just there.
they're annoying as hell.
Yeah. So interesting. But yeah, any final thoughts on Black Hawk Down?
It's a movie. It's got action.
Certainly is.
I don't have a whole lot for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever there is a movie about the US military and there's an opening scroll. Don't trust it. They're never right.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys all for listening to this episode 16 of Snubs and Dubs. As always, you can find us everywhere on social media at Snubs and Dubs. That's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, etc. We're also on Good Pods, so make sure to check us out there and join our official Discord. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on Black Hawk Down or on this episode, so please send us a tweet or a message with a question, recommendation, or anything else. I'm also at Kyle Tobias on Twitter, which is dying, and Jason's at @unwinder_mills.
For now.
Yeah. All those links will be in the show notes. Please leave a 5-star review, share the show to everyone you know, and check back next week for another episode. Here's a sneak peek of the film we're going to talk about.
I wonder where you were going. Mulholland Drive. Come on, it'll be just like in the movies. We'll pretend to be someone else.
That's right. Next time we're talking about Mulholland Drive, so make sure to watch it before next episode. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap. Bye.
Bye for now.